Today's been a blockbuster day with the IPL auction in full swing. With two new teams added to the IPL, there's now a whole lot more competition for some of cricket's best players and emerging talents. From near record signings to hordes of cash being spent on under par players, this IPL auction has had it all. But that's not all. We'll be talking about the omission of Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson, two of England's most successful seamers from England's squad of West Indies tour in March, as well as the future of England's bowling attack. Without further ado, let's get started. As I said before, today's been a really exciting day with the IPL auction. There's been some big signings. There's been some bargains as well. Some surprising omissions as well. Some players who haven't been bidded for. So tomorrow's going to be even more exciting with an express auction and so many players available who haven't been picked up yet for potentially better prices. So I think that we'll start with a roundup of today's events in terms of the IPL auction. I think for key moves for me were of players from the last IPL in 2021 who played really well, such as Avesh Khan, Harshal Patel, and other batsmen who went for really high prices and got a big payday due to their impressive performances previously. There's also the core players of CSK, Mumbai Indians, and other teams who have generally, like to retain their main squad, who've actually been completely shredded and had to look for other alternatives due to players wanting to go for higher prices. Zaid, what do you think is like the standout bids this IPL auction day? Who do you think would be the highlights of the auction?
Yeah, so obviously we've had some very high players sold. So we've had Ishan Kishan. He was sold for 1.5 million, which is like loads. And we also had Deepak Chahar 1.4 million, which is absolutely loads. And I don't really with those two players, yes, they're both great players, but I'm not exactly sure that it was the best idea for them to be sold for that much. What do you think? Who do you think that do you think these two players were worth that much, or what do you think?
No, I agree with you. I think there's a question on how much are you willing to spend. You've also got to realize that this is in cricket perspective. This is not like football where you can easily spend 100 million on transfer fee on a player. 1.5 million in cricketing terms for the IPL this is the fourth highest bid for a player or something like that. Second highest for an Indian player, Ishan Kishan. It's 1.5 million pounds. That is absolutely ridiculous. I think Ishan Kishan, I think his main selling value is one, he did very well last IPL. He's top scorer for Mumbai Indians, but also he's pretty young as well. So if you tie him down a contract, keep him in Mumbai Indians for a while. Mumbai Indians also losing a few key players as well, such as they lost like Trent Boult, Krunal Pandya, Hardik Pandya, Rahul Chahar. They're more bowlers, but still they want to keep at least some element of their really successful team. I think also there were on the opposite side, there were some good bargains. I think for me, the main bargain would have been Johnny Bairstow. He was an absolute steal. I think he was bought for something in the region of 6 crore, which is £600,000. This is roughly, but he could score 300 plus runs in the IPL season. His game is good at spin pace. Any other shockers for you, or any bargains that you saw, Zaid?
Yeah, I completely agree with you with Johnny Bairstow. He is definitely a steal. He can, as you said, he can bat loads. He can keep the flow going. He can obviously keep as well. And one thing that I think is very interesting about the auction so far, we've seen some players that have actually moved. So moved teams from where they've been for the past 4 or 5 years. So, for example, we've seen David Warner. He's been playing for Sunrisers for quite a while now, and now he's gone to Delhi Capitals, which is very interesting. And also, I think there's also been some players that have actually not been sold just yet. For example, Shakibal Hassan. He's absolutely amazing player. I think great all rounder, and I think it's a bit shocking to me how he just hasn't been sold. So I think it's been a very interesting auction so far. I'm sure we've got some great auctioning to come.
Yeah, I think with Shakibal Hassan, I think it was primarily due to he didn't have the best IPL last season. And everyone knows how good he is internationally, but like in terms of IPL, is sort of a different realm in a way. You're facing some of the best players regularly, and it's not just in the Indian pitches as well. You got to think that if they can't perform in previous IPLs, I think a lot of the committee and the board for each team was going to be very unwilling to pay out a big price for people who haven't done well in previous IPLs. For me, I think something that surprised me, especially considering he's from England, is Adil Rashid not being bought at all. He did put a pretty high price of 2 crore as his base price. So you're gonna have to fish out a decent amount. But with the budgets that some of these teams have, I don't think there's even a worry. Him and Adam Zampa, both leg spinners, didn't get bought. I think the key reason is probably because India have very good leg spinners, and there's a lot of homegrown talent. A lot of Indian talent, which they prefer to buy and spend their overseas players on, on batsmen or pace bowlers and things like that. Any other highlights of the auction for you today?
So with Adil Rashid and Anand Zampa, I think another reason could be that India, we've seen they're a growing nation. They've been for ages. They've got amazing young batsmen, and they've got great players of spin as well. So maybe some teams have just thought, let's not take the risk. Let's not take too many spinners. As you said, they've got some great spinners as well in India. So perhaps that could be another reason that India have got amazing batsmen. So maybe not take the risk of buying players and then not actually them really performing. And also another thing, I think Nicholas Puran, he's been taken, but I think he's just, I'm not really sure about him. He's even for the West Indies, not always been the most consistent player. When he does well, this is for most batsmen, really, I think. When they do well, they really get that big score and they play really well. But the thing is, with your batsmen, you obviously want consistency. You want them to score big scores every time. And Nicholas Byrne, I think just recently he's been a bit too inconsistent. And yeah, if I was some of the IPL teams, I wouldn't really think about getting any inconsistent players. I would be careful with who I pick. So yeah, that's what I think has been the main highlights of so far for the auction.
Yeah, I agree. I'd also include Lockie Ferguson being bought for I think 10 crore, which is around £1 million. That's quite a lot of money for a pace bowler who's pretty skillful, but has had injury struggles. You need to be able to survive the entire IPL season, which isn't very like in terms of like in proportion of a year. It's like I think it's a month or two. It's not too long. So but Lockie Ferguson has got injured regularly, and I wouldn't put him. He wouldn't be the leader of my bowling attack if I was an IPL team. I don't think I would put him as the leader of my bowling attack. With Nicholas Puran, if you need someone who's going to be able to score 300, 350 runs throughout the entire season. That's what you want from a batsman, at least if he's top order batsman as well. Nicholas Puran, he could be good at number 5, but I wouldn't put him anywhere like in top 4. I don't see the point because he's not going to, even if you give him the balls to face, he's going to get out very quickly. And now I think we should go on to actual teams itself. Are there any teams who feel might have had not a very good first day? There's been some big names been sold, but I think there's quite a pattern that it's similar teams. It's a few teams are getting all the best players, but any teams that you should be worried coming in tomorrow?
Yes, I think Chennai Super Kings, we've seen them in the past, absolutely amazing team. But just at this point, I think they Chennai Super Kings and I think Mumbai Indians as well, they like to keep the main core of their team. And I think Chennai Super Kings, there's a couple of questions going around. They've got a very great young talent with Ruturaj Gaikwad. They've got your players, Ambati Rayudu, Moeen Ali, who's been playing well recently. And the only question I would raise for them is really MS Dhoni. He's I'm not really sure about him. The only reason I can see why they've kept him is for his captaincy. And yes, he's not really performing with the bat, and that's not really his fault. Obviously, he's growing, he's getting much older. He's really just come to the end of his career now. So I guess the only reason they've picked him is for his captaincy. The other problem I think I have with CSK is I think they really need to get a pace bowler, and they probably need some one, maybe at least one top order batsman. I think they're just a bit less at the moment. They're just a bit light on their power or their strength in their batting really and their bowling. Their batting's been good. I think last couple of seasons we've seen their bowling has been a bit, yeah. So I think Chance is looking good, but I think they just need to get a few more gaps filled before they can actually be a good team again.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you, but for me, it'd be Mumbai Indians, who I think have arguably had the worst first auction day. They've got a lot of money, but they haven't got enough players. For even though they've got a lot of money spare, there's no point, because this first stage where you can get, you can sort of show your authority, get the best players, and they've lost players like Hardik Pandya, Rahul Chahar, Krunal Pandya. They've lost quite a bit of their team. Trent Bolt as well. Like, it's pretty shocking, because I guess these players have been with Mumbai Indians for 3-4 years probably. I guess it's their chance to get a better contract, get more money, and a lot of them have. But I think if Mumbai Indians don't get a middle order batsman who could score a lot of runs, Hardik Pandya was a middle order batsman who could score quickly, but didn't always score a lot of runs. If they can get someone who could score quite at least 200 runs a season, that'd be perfect. But in general, they just need more players. They need players in all departments. They do need overseas players, especially because overseas players, give you that extra, quality talent boost as such. They obviously get a lot of Indian players, but now towards this end of the auction, you might be able to get most of the players will be sort of rejects, or not going to be, they'll be like emerging talents or unseen talents. But they want some overseas players. Anyone who's left, they just need to grab them because they have enough money to get it. Any team to watch out for? Any a key team do you think has had the best IPL auctions, Zaid?
Yeah, so I think there's three teams that really stand out to me so far. I think those would probably be Punjab Kings, Rajasthan Royals, and Royal Challengers Bangalore. The reason for this is that Punjab Kings, the players they retain, I think they only retained two. I think it was, I can't remember. I think it was Mike Hagwell, perhaps. But they didn't really have any proper like core of their team when they retain their players. And now they've actually got some great players in there. They've got Shikhar Dhawan now. They've got Johnny Bairstow. They've got Rabada, Chahar. Some great players. So I think Punjab Kings have had a great first day. Rajasthan Royals. They also, I didn't think they didn't retain many of their best players. So they've now got Devdutt Padikkal. They've got Shimron Hetwai. So they are filling in for what they've missed out. They've also got Ravi Ashwin and Trent Bolt, and also Chahal. So some great players coming into these teams. I think what we've seen in this auction so far, a lot of players literally just swapping teams, just going to a new one. And I think 2022 is really going to be the year where the teams are completely different. So, and then with Royal Challengers Bangalore as well, we've now got Faf Duplessis, and you've got Dinesh Karthik, and and Josh Hazelwood. So you've got some great players. So I think for me, these three teams have had the best so far. What do you think? Who do you think has had the best auction so far?
Yeah. Before I go into that, I was just gonna say that I agree, because your typical, who you plays for Mumbai Indians, who plays for RCB, who plays for CSK, those players are all mixed now, so it's gonna be a lot different. It's sort of like a new IPL in a way. It's a fresh start with two more teams as well. For me, by far, Lucknow Super Giants probably had the best IPL auction first day. Obviously, you got to pick three players that they could. Because they're a new team in the IPL previously before the auction, but they've had a pretty stunning auction. They don't have too much money left, 6.9 crore, and they do need to probably get another, at least, in order to get the 18-player squad thing, they need another 7 players, but they've got enough talent. Like, they've got KL Rahul, Quinton de Kock, Manish Pandey. That's 3 top order batsman options. Then you've got Marcus Stoinis, who's been destructive in BBL before. He can come in like 5 or 6. Deepak Hooda can also do a similar job. Krunal Pandya, a similar region. You could have You can have Stoinis like sort of like 5, maybe Huda 6, Krunal Pandya 7, Jason Holder. Oh my God! Like you've got sort of they've got the all rounders and people who can actually bat as well. These not just all rounders who can just swing it and score 10 runs and get out. These all rounders who could easily score 50s. So I think they've had an amazing IPL. They've got pace bowling all rounders. They've got spin bowling all rounders. Ravi Bishnoi, Avesh Khan, Mark Wood, 2 really good pace bowlers. I think they probably need to get some homegrown talent as such for the pace bowling department. I think probably add a couple. They don't have enough. Obviously, you got Jason Holder, Stoinis who can bowl a bit, Avish Khan, but I still think you could get a few more. But overall, they've got a strong team. Like they're 100% for me the team to fear, the team who could launch a surprising attack on the IPL crown and rip it away from CSK and Mumbai Indians. Yeah, so that's pretty much it from our IPL section. I think we've covered most of the points about the IPL. Tomorrow there's gonna be there's still gonna be a lot of good players, but it's gonna be sort of the remains. That's the issue. So if you really the teams who didn't make a big enough impact now, we're gonna struggle tomorrow, I think. The second topic that we talked about in the intro was Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson being left out of the West England squad to the West Indies test tour in March. It's actually been pretty dramatic. It's been a bit of a shock. I could sort of understand why he'd leave Anderson, but Stuart Broad, why? He's 35. If he's as fit as Anderson, he could probably play for at least another 2-3 years. You could say that he's bowling really well as well. So I think taking him out of the squad was a bit of a shocker. The real question for everyone is, what does that mean for their future? What do you think, Zaid?
Yeah, so I kind of disagree with the fact that they've been left out. I think you kind of need at least one of them. I think the other bowlers in their lineup, in England's lineup, don't really have enough experience. They Broad and Anderson to be able to give them more experience. I think they just need Broad and Anderson just a bit longer, maybe even if it's just one of them. So for their future, yeah, I'm not really sure. I think this Anderson definitely is coming to the end now. So he's obviously had absolutely, both of them have had absolutely amazing careers, and I think England have been very lucky that they've had Broad and Anderson both in the same era, which is amazing. So we've had 2 outstanding bowlers, and so with Anderson, I think it's probably time to start thinking about the end of his career. With Broad, I think he's probably got a couple of years left, but obviously Broad's younger than Anderson. But I'm a bit confused with Broad. I'm not really sure about his future because obviously he's not got this like they've both been left out. That clearly signals that there's something about to end. So with Anderson, I definitely think he's probably coming to the end of his career. With Broad, I'm not really sure. What do you think, Avinash?
Yeah, it's justifiable leaving Jimmy Anderson out. Realistically, there's an element of conservation in terms of him. Obviously he's incredibly fit. Extremely, like there's no doubt about it. But there comes a point where that as a pace bowler, and he's bowling quite one of the quickest he's been bowling in his career. Like he's no slouch at all. So I think you got to keep him rested, and I think prioritizing him for the England summer is 100% the way to go. But Stuart Broad, I just don't understand. If I was selectors, I'd be like, I want my best team on for every test. After we've had a horrible 4-0 Ashes drubbing, and we've had last year was a horrible test year for us. We for England was barely. I think we won like 1 test in the entire year. It was just shameful, and partly due to because we weren't putting our best team out. We were resting players. We were taking them home. Etc. I think if you want results and you want them quickly, you've got to 100% go for best team. For as many test matches as possible, and I think Stuart Broad should be part of that best team. He should 100% be in consideration. At least, even if you don't pick him all tests, you have to put him in the squad. I just don't understand. But yeah, if you want to know more about the futures of their Broad and Anderson, there's an article on the Completely Cricket website on our blog. There is an article about it, and it goes into a bit more detail. But anyway, the main consideration now is who's going to lead the bowling attack in the future. Without with Jimmy Anderson, seemingly destined to finish off his career, part playing, not playing all tests, and Stuart Broad already looked at the age of 35, is already being looked at as like coming towards the end of his career. Who's going to be the future? Who do you think, Zaid?
So obviously, first one that comes to mind, definitely Ollie Robinson. I think he's definitely just got to be. If Broad and Anderson are gone, then it's probably going to be him that leads the bowling attack. He's probably got to try and become. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to become the next Anderson, but he's got to aim high. He's got to get. He's got to improve. Like he's an amazing. He's a rising star. He's new. He's a great find for England, and I'm a bit worried for Robinson because I just don't think he's got enough experience just yet, just to be able to lead the attack. So I'm just really, I really disagree with England's decision to leave both Broad and Anderson out. And one thing I just quickly want to say that with the ECB, they've got to give answers. Like you can't just do random stuff and then not tell anyone why it's happening. We saw some disastrous decisions in the Ashes. Now we've seen this questionable decision. We've seen we've seen Giles and Silverwood. They've left their jobs within a week. We've seen so much action in the ECB in the last couple of months. They've got to start giving answers out to people like us. How long are we just going to sit here just talking about this stuff? We need to know something. The ECB, I don't think they can just continue on just doing random decisions which don't make sense to us. So leading the bowling attack, I think it's got to be Robinson, someone like Craig Overton, perhaps, maybe Chris Woke. So these players, but I just don't think at this point, I don't think anyone's got the experience or talent to be able to replace Broad and Anderson yet. I think probably. I'm sure there'll be someone in the future, but just not yet. I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's sort of like abandoning, a young child. Like you can't. The lack of experience is really going to affecting them, because when it comes to decisions on what to bowl, what line length to bowl, what delivery to bowl, obviously Ollie Robinson and other England bowlers are smart, but with the experience of someone like Stuart Broad, who's played so many test matches, that he could easily tell you, okay, he's been through every experience that you could possibly have, and he'll be like, okay, we should go this attack, we should do this way, with our captain being Joe Root, who's a batsman as well. Joe Root can help to a degree, but you need an experienced bowler in the attack. So leaving both of them out is really making England's bowling attack really open and vulnerable to underperforming. There's a question on Ollie Robinson's fitness. He's the generally fit guy, but he has shown that he's been getting back spasms and getting pretty tired towards the end of a day in Test cricket, which is natural, but in terms of time, it's sort of the quality of his bowling has been dropping. And when England are close to breakthrough and putting on pressure, you need your leading bowler, who could be Robinson in the future, to be able to continue and sustain that excellence that he generally has. So there's a question of his fitness. Jofra Archer has been injured for more than a year now with his elbow issues. He had elbow surgery, I think. He's a candidate. But the thing is, there's no clear-cut candidate. England have had too many injuries. England's bowlers have had too many injuries, not enough experience. It's sort of just like all the new players are coming in at the same time, and it's the same issue with the batting. If your entire squad gets completely revamped at the same time, it's got to be gradual. It's got to be really gradual, and I think it's lacking that gradualness. What do you feel about that? Do you feel like it's all too sudden? Do you feel like it's just do you think you feel like it needs to be more gradual, or what is your view on all this?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think it's got to be a bit more gradual. You can't just, as you said earlier, that you can't. It's almost like abandoning a young child. You can't just make these sudden decisions. And I don't know what's been going behind the scenes. Maybe I'm sure it's probably been some chat with Broad and Anderson, because such a massive decision leaving them out. There's definitely been some talking to them, but yeah, I think they've got to be making the changes a bit more gradual. They can't really be making them so sudden, because people like Robinson, they need to be able to get the experience to improve and get that experience and become as good as these players, Broad and Anderson. So I just feel like The process needs to be a bit more gradual.
Yeah, I think from all of this, I think we've sort of deduced that there just seems to be a lack of planning with all the personnel changes, with complete revamp of the squad after a horrible test year last year. It just feels like there's not it's not been a long. The England's been going on about long-term plan, resting, rotating, and everything. But is there really been a clear long-term plan? It doesn't seem like it. There needs to be a long-term plan to improve county pitches, for example. There needs to be a long-term plan to improve the young players who want to go into Test cricket, who are good at, who are playing well. There needs to be a better system for them to come through because they're struggling when they're up, when they're playing internationally. There's just it's systematic issues. I think is generally what it seems like. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of cricket for this week. Hopefully tomorrow, in terms of the IPL, we'll get some big signings, possibly a broken record. Highly unlikely after most of the best players have been sold already, but there still are some big names who could be bought in the Express auction tomorrow. That's pretty much it.